Well, I have the pleasure of being here with Giselle Fernandez. Many of you may know her as journalist. You own your own. You're actually the first. You own the first Hispanic company that's focusing on marketing. You're such an advocate for education, and today joining us at MediaCon. And a question I wanted to ask you is, you were talking about that this is the decade of the Latino, and that you've been saying this actually every year.
But this time it really is. This is, in every event I've gone to, I've always said, this is the year of the Latino, and our empowerment and our voice is finally going to be heard and integrated into mainstream society. And we've always had, time that we needed to get there. This is the time we really, have arrived. And we accounted for 12% of the re-election vote of Barack Obama. We have $1.5 trillion buying power. We have a tremendous amount of influence, the numbers in our demographic. It's just now an opportunity for us not to be a grandmother behind a Ferrari, but to really use our fuerza, our force, our poder, our power, to really leverage and exercise this economy in the right way so that we can make sure our kids get educated, which is our number one alarming concern. There's a disparity in wealth in this country, which is very hard hit in the Hispanic community. And we need to address these things so that we make sure that we have access to capital. There needs to be democratization of capital and access to it in our communities so that we can grow our businesses and build our businesses, and we can send our kids to school and buy our homes and live the American dream, which is why so many of us came here. And once we have that kind of stability and stake in the ground as Americans, then we can start to help change laws and use our vote in powerful ways, and we could do that already. But we need to, create a stable economy and a growing economy for ourselves, and we need to ensure that our leverage, kind of penetrates the mainstream now, so we're not seen as two different Americas.
Individuals here at the conference we had the pleasure of being able to listen to these inspiring words and all these messages. But for the average person, we still feel like we're underrepresented. We feel like we don't have power. How do we inform them? How do we kind of get that message across to them that they do have power, that we have buying power, that we're, a large demographic. In California alone, it's probably over 50%. But how do we get that message across? How do we finally convince them, yes, you do have power?
Well, I think it's, this is a bold statement, but I really believe it. I think it's going to come down to the Latina in every household, because we hold the buying and purchasing power in our households. We care about our kids' education and health care. We are oftentimes the breadwinner in our families, as reflected in all, households today. More and more women are taking on that role, but at Latinas specifically. And I think we have to understand through community organizing and through sharing our story and our dreams and really leveraging that buying power that we start to, take more control of our future and the future of our kids. It's why we came here. It's why we sacrificed so much and our parents sacrificed so much. We face discrimination and challenge. We're still marginalized, but like I said, it's the decade of the Latino. Our numbers our sheer demographic is changing the face of this nation. And so it's happening anyway. We just have a huge education crisis that needs to be addressed. And because we have such leverage now with our vote, 12% of that vote, which is critical in the re-election of our president, we need to start using that vote and that leverage of that power to demand that our education system be looked at and the disparity of wealth be looked at, and that we have access to capital in different ways. If we can concentrate on access to capital to grow our businesses and changing the dynamics and the paradigms of the underbanked and the underserved to have an access to the pipeline to the dream, like Thomas Jefferson said, these are inalienable rights. And everyone that came to this country came from somewhere. That's the greatness of America. We came from somewhere else to build a great nation with these great precepts and values. And so why there's any different perception of Latinos is simply an archetypal imprint that has to change. And who has to change it? We do. And we have to make sure, as Latinas particularly, that we graduate our kids and that we focus on education and that we use our buying power and our voting power now very carefully and wisely. And we should organize together and make sure that we together have fuerza, that we collaborate, where there's force in numbers.
Talking about education, I know that you serve as a mentor for a group that you feel very passionate about. Can you talk to us a little bit about?
I can, and it happens to be in Los Angeles. It's called City Year in Los Angeles, but it's also a peer mentor organization that's nationwide. It started out of Harvard, and it's a powerful, powerful organization and group. They basically, I think we're in 17 schools now in Los Angeles, and they send a SWAT team of the most amazing kids who are taking off a year after high school or a year from college, and they go into the most at-risk schools, and they target the most at-risk kids and threatened to not graduate, and they make sure that they work with those kids morning, noon, and night, and after school, and with their parents and in their community to raise their reading and math skills, and so they can graduate. And we have a 30% metrics, actual, a validation that this program is working. So we obviously have many schools in the Los Angeles system that are vying for more of these schools, but it costs about $100,000 to sponsor a school in this program. So when we talk about the big corporations that make trillions of dollars off the Latino buying power, perhaps they can be engaged to make sure that they adopt one of these schools so that we have this mentor-peer relationship and program within these schools that are most needed. We need to bolster and empower and support what's working. I'm less inclined now to, talk about federal programs and government programs. I'm more inclined to look at what is working in the private sector, what is working in the nonprofit sector that really has impact and measurables. And this is one organization that does. Teach for America is another, the Green Dot. There's so many others, but the one I know, the one I believe in, the one I sit on their board and really feel strongly about is City Year. Here and in cities across this nation, it's helping Latino students graduate.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inspiring us. I saw a number of young people come up to you and saying how much your words meant to them. And truly, as someone who met you a handful of years ago when I was a page at NBC, I have to say you are the same delightful, gracious individual that I met back then. And they were saying during the panel, it's unfortunate so many people, they escalate, they reach a certain level in their careers, but then they don't give back. And you continue giving back. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to see you and lovely to see you doing so well. We need more of you on the air in all capacities. So thank you.
Such a pleasure.
Thank you.